Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we talk about all things automotive. Well, you know what? I just realized I didn't change the format. There we go. That's a little better. Front of the house, back of the house, middle, doesn't really matter because the better we all get, the better the customer experience. And contrary to popular belief and the latest discovery about, Mark, have you heard something about the customer experience being important these days?
When was it not important?
It's funny because I'm hearing about it now that all of a sudden it's important again.
Oh, we're starting to catch up, are we?
I think so. All right,
Perfect.
So I'd like to welcome Marco Zwanenburg. He's one of my Dutch brothers and Fixed Ops brothers. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Paul. It's a great honor to be on here. Good to talk to you again, and let's do this. I'm looking forward to this.
All right. For the one or two folks that may not know who this Marco guy is, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are right now?
I am originally from Rotterdam, the Netherlands. I spent 4 years in automotive technical college. Nothing here can compare to that. I started off at a BMW dealership. Then I moved to the US and I stayed with, obviously, with cars until now, which has been a good 26-year run. I've worked as an advisor, mainly as a technician. I've been a team leader. I've been in shop management, and fixed ops just runs through my veins, through my blood, through my brain. I'm highly passionate about this, and things need to change, and I like seeing where this is going overall.
Awesome. I love the car business. Some of my best friends I've met on both sides of the desk. And I want to get to a couple of comments here, and then we have a request from Gene Gurley. So let's start off with automotive recruiting. Paul and Marco, great to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. And Mark Williamson, bam, what's happening, everyone? Russell B. Hill, hello and good evening to you all. Let's rock and roll. And Vernon Swords, hey, Paul. Gene Gurley, good times. And Scott Gregg, good evening, everyone. Sean Kingsley, good evening. Looking forward to this, Marco. Well, you know
Absolutely.
What?
Thanks for joining, Sean.
I was doing this backwards from the bottom to the top. And Ed Chipolowski was the first one here today. Says, hello, everyone. All right, so earlier today, I got a request from Gene Gurley. He says, hey, how'd you score Marco on the show? I said, well, you know, we have this ethnic background thing going. We're both of Dutch origin. We both speak Dutch. So Gene asked that we speak some Dutch. So ik ben hier sinds 1969 en ik spreek nog steeds een klein beetje Nederlands.
Nou, ik ben hier vanaf 1997 en ik spreek nog een beetje beter Nederlands dan jij. En ik kan het schrijven.
Ik kan het niet meer schrijven en je bent 30 jaar achter mij gekomen.
Wat kan ik zeggen? Hè? Een beetje later, een beetje vroeger. Het komt allemaal op hetzelfde neer, toch?
All right, Gene Gurley, there you have it. That's a little bit of Dutch language here.
By the way, Gene, that's extra. I'll send you the bill.
All right, let's go back to the comments here. Make sure we have everybody covered. Mike Vogel, oh, wait a minute. Jeff Daniel, Wikipedia picture of stud technician has this guy right there. I love that picture, man. Mike Vogel says, Paul, thanks for having Marco on for GMs and SMs struggling with technician retention. Pay attention to what Marco has to say. And Robert Stage, awesome guest. Can't wait to hear Marco's commentary. And Sean Kingsley says, thanks, Marco. Great connection, great friend. And Robert Stage says, oh, now you guys are just showing off. Hey, it's actually not that hard. When you think about it, the Dutch language, if all those little Dutch kids can speak it, how hard can it be?
Seriously, I mean, anyone can do it, right?
That's that. All right, so welcome to the show, everybody. You know, we hear a lot about text this, text that, but rarely do we hear from the master techs themselves. And Marco is one such guy. And we're going to kick it off with, and this kind of follows up a little bit on what we spoke about last week about the tech shortage. Marco is of the belief that there is no tech shortage. And after what I learned last week, I'm starting to buy into that. So share with me a little bit about your feelings on that.
Okay, to say there's a tech crisis, yes, there is. Is there a tech shortage? No, there is not. The problem is that the industry for years and years, if not decades, has treated technicians as second-rate employees. Like, we can get them anywhere, they're uneducated, they're dirty, they don't know anything. We're probably one of the most highest educated and the best equipped people in the business. Now, people are starting to catch on to that when it's too late. The industry has driven many great technicians out of this industry into other industries. I can do HVAC, I can do electric, I can do plumbing, I can do drywall, I can do flooring. Why would I stay in a dealership where I get worked to death, paid pennies on the dollar, nothing is ever good enough, break my body for you every day for nothing? I can go work for an electric company or an air conditioning company and be treated much better, get paid better, have better hours, and be appreciated and treated as a human being. This is where dealerships and manufacturers, not just dealerships, because dealerships are dictated by the manufacturer, went wrong. You pushed us all out. There is no shortage. The problem lays with you, GMs, the service directors, dealerships, and OEMs in keeping us wanting to work for you. That part you have failed miserably on, and here we are. But now I see every day on LinkedIn over and over again, oh, boo-hoo-hoo, we can't find technicians, there's a shortage. There's really not. That's my point on it.
That you hit the nail right on the head with a freaking sledgehammer.
Absolutely,
because
Paul.
When we, look, I started as a tech in this business many moons ago, and there's not a lot that I can't fix, right? We're opening up a store. I'm doing the install. I'm putting all the racks up. I'm putting all the furniture together. All of that build up, a lot of the setup of the store I'm doing. I fixed appliances. I've framed, wired, sheetrocked, painted. I've done everything you can imagine. I've still done some stuff on my own car. But your point is, and it's a good one, if you're a technician, you can do anything, because if you can fix these complex machines, which are basically computers today, you can fix anything. And if you're not appreciated, why on earth would you ever want to stay in a business like that?
Correct. And this is why there is a shortage, supposed shortage, on the other side of the desk. There is not, but you pushed us out. And this keeps going and going and going. And now that dealerships starting to realize that, I call this the beaten wife syndrome. Just because you hang a couple of perks over our heads and a couple of promises doesn't make us come back to you. And it's going to make it hard to attract and grow new technicians if your current fleet of technicians has nothing good to say about the industry. Personally, I feel bad for people trying to enter the industry right now.
That's why has it taken this long to get to this point?
Because the bottom line still look good, Paul. The bottom line still look good. In a lot of cases, damage control is cheaper than damage prevention. But here we are.
But now, in a couple of years from now, when things go back to a little closer to what they are, I don't think they'll ever go quite back to where they were. But what happens then?
Well, the problem is that you have, the technicians that remained in the dealerships, in the fix up departments, for lack of a better word, dinosaurs like myself. We're phasing out. We're getting to a point where either we're retiring or find different positions because just our bodies cannot handle the daily stress of just our scope of work anymore. So you're going to leave another huge void, not just by not being able to retain or find technicians, but the few that you had that actually know what they're doing and are able to help and train and grow others are phasing out.
So this problem that they're experiencing now, in all likelihood, unless things turn around, is going to get a lot worse.
Correct.
I have a couple of comments I want to get to. Gene Girdley says, no money without a translation. Hey, Gene, you said nothing about translation, bro. You merely said Dutch, all right?
He was specific, right? Yeah.
If there's a knock at the door, I wouldn't suggest going there unless you had the cash in hand. Mark Williamson, Polo, had to say it. Steve Apicella, exactly. What? Just tuned in to Dutch-speaking podcast. Paul, you're always pushing the boundaries. Earl Sticks Brown, great Dutch demo, love it. And Steve Apicella says, I think it's time to feed the cat. You know, Oreo came to the door before when Marco and I were on before the show, and he was meowing because he wanted to come in. And then, of course, in true Oreo fashion, after he's been here for a little while, he decides he wants to go, but the show has already started. So my wife was kind enough to come rescue. And Vernon Sword says, industry has treated parts and service as second rate. Was it even treated that well? Steve Apicella said, the most unique attribute of the brick and mortar dealers compared to the 100% online retailers is the brick and mortar dealers' unique ability to also locally service their customers better than anyone. Shouldn't fixed ops and its employees be the marquee part of the dealer's strategy, not just a second strategy? And Vernon Sword says, most owners, general managers that I know have never worked a day in fixed ops, have zero understanding of it, but they understand now what a shortage of vehicles has valuable fixed ops, how valuable fixed ops is. Happened in 08, cash for clunkers. Great points. So we know how they're treated. What are some of the things that dealerships can do to make it better, to retain some of the talent that we have?
Well, to come back on a point that was just mentioned by one of our viewers, is that top management of the dealership has no idea about fixed ops. First and foremost, dealerships have always been variable ops. The whole automotive industry has always been sales driven.
Yeah.
You hear one manufacturer boasting over another that they sold more cars, not that they serviced more cars. So we've always been treated as, second rate. As a matter of fact, you could look at it that for a manufacturer, just having to admit that you need a fixed ops department means that your car may need service or it may break down. So we're not just second rate, we're the black sheep. But without the service department, you cannot sell cars. They come in for a pre-delivery inspection before they can be handed over to the customer. So actually, sorry sales, you need us. We don't need you. Cars get sold regardless, whether it's a vending machine, online, another dealership. I will never have a shortage of cars to work on. Having said that, I think one of the biggest improvements that dealerships can make, like the one I currently work for, Naples Luxury Imports, shameless plug there, our GM, Jason Rydell, is typical sales. Our service director is die-hard fixed ops. Our GM said, fixed ops, I do not. You run the show. This is what we need. Either get involved, learn, like I have said in previous airings on like the Fixed Ops Roundtable, for example, I invite each and every general manager, sales manager, anyone in management, come bring some dirty clothes, bring some old tennis shoes, steel-toed shoes. Come spend a day or two, if not more, in the shop with us. See what we have to do to diagnose and service, to write up our cause and correction in whatever management system you use, how we have to prove our points more and more almost like a court case for the respective manufacturer to get paid on warranty times. Come see this. Come experience it. Understand it. If not, you're doomed. So this is where I think the first step lays. Understanding, and not just from dealership management, from OEMs as well, from manufacturers, to bring the whole public view and opinion on what happens in the shop more to light. I think it is so important. Have service clinics whether online or in person. Now that, things have been lifted, we can do more things in person. I love doing service clinics when I worked at Mercedes of Naples. People had no idea about their cars. And once you're showing them how complicated they are, the average car, luxury car, has 100-something control units in it. They're more advanced than a space shuttle ever was. It doesn't leave the Earth, okay, but they're more advanced than that. People have no idea. Once you're able to tell them and show them how complex their cars are, they're starting to understand why it's not so simple anymore to diagnose and repair these vehicles. And once you show them the value of you as fixed operations, as a certified technician, they don't mind paying the price.
Education is key in everything.
Correct.
We in this business tend to make it about price. When I think study after study after study you look at, price is not I don't think it's in the top 3. They want to know that you, one, value them as a customer, and two, that you're an expert in your particular area. The stuff that you work on, the complexity of the computers and the servos and all of the things that go, the average person can't figure that stuff out. So the clinics, to your point, I mean, that's beautiful. Now, initially, you might not have a lot of people show up, but guess what? As people get more attuned to what it is that you do, and you're actually proud of this department, more people will show up and more people will want to get involved. I mean, it's a great way to grow your business. It's a great way to stay engaged with your customers, because most places aren't doing it. They're just not. And this goes for years.
And it's a great way to attract new interest of future employees into the business.
Got a couple of comments. Mike Vogel says OEM warranty flat rate system is broken. Career path for technicians is non-existent, and no tool allowance or tools supplied for technicians. No focus on long-term retention work on fixes now, and you can start to improve things. To go back to an earlier point, we spend money, and I've seen the ads, giant signing bonuses to bring in people, right? And I think you mentioned, what about incentives to stay?
Exactly.
I've seen I've seen as much as $10,000 bogeys paid for a technician to come to the store. But yet, how do you feel as a technician knowing that you're working at a place and they're willing to pay somebody $10,000, but nobody's come to you about making sure you're happy and or offering you any kind of incentive to stay?
I don't have as much of a problem with the sign-on bonus, because usually they're paid 6 months to a year after the person was hired, depending on the situation. If I live in Southwest Florida, if you have to get someone from Nevada who has a family of 4, $10K barely pays for a move and a deposit on a house here, a rental house here. So I don't have a problem with that. The problem that I have is, what if I get paid, just throwing out a number here, $35 an hour. And just to get this new guy in who seems somewhat promising, you offer him $10 an hour over what I'm making, as where I have a proven track record with your dealership. This is where a lot of people go wrong too. You start to create this monetary cancer in the shop. And even though, Sean Kingery will back me up on this, I kind of changed his complete view on a few things on this, but money to me is not the number one reason to come to work. You can pay me $300 an hour, but if I have to take Xanax and Zoloft and I don't know what in the morning just to drag my ass into the car to drive to work, it's not worth it. Culture, involvement of management, just having a nice group to work with, have a well-equipped tool room, have good internet. How many dealerships skip on that? Internet, hello. You know how many fixes are software downloads? It's like more now. It's like trying to update your iPhone 12 on a 37K Flex dial-up. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Invest in the infrastructure and into your shop in many, many different ways. Money is not the biggest thing. But if you start getting these newbies in that are less qualified, or you just go off with their resume, you may have talked to their manager, and who knows. If you start offering them more than they're paying you, you also have to take care of the staff that you have, or else they're going to walk. Now they're going to go and get a $10,000 sign-on bonus from the dealership next door and get more money. So you have to keep everything in check. You have to keep everything a reality. Remember, Paul, what's the first rule of business? To make money, you have to spend money. No one buys a $75,000 alignment rack and expects that the next day, because of the alignments that have been done, it's paid off.
Right.
No, you don't. It's an investment. I'm not calling myself a tool or a piece of equipment, but I am an investment to your company. Like my latest post, wrote it. These hands have created millions in revenue. Did I get millions? No, I really didn't. But I'm expected to, keep going and going and going. So where is my compensation? Where's the fairness in all this?
It's you bring an interesting perspective to the incentive to bring somebody on board, right? I wasn't a big fan of it at all, but I never looked at it the way you explained it. If a guy with a family or a gal with a family is coming from Nevada, yeah, you're right. That $10,000 is nothing. It sounds
Correct.
like a lot, but in reality, to uproot your whole family, I mean that, and gamble, right? Because not every employer that you go to work for comes through with everything they say they're going to come through with. I mean,
wait, are you saying that management lies at job interviews? No way, Paul. Now you went too far.
I mean, I've read such a thing. and I think it might exist now and then. But so you bring an interesting perspective to that. And as far as bringing in somebody at a higher rate that's unproven, that's just the ultimate slap in the face. You might as well tell everybody that, you might as well walk into the shop and tell everybody, hey, everybody listen up. We don't value you. Everybody, take your toolboxes. You might as well leave because we have no interest in you. I mean, that's essentially what they're saying when they're offering that much more money.
I mean, if the guy truly is highly awarded, certified, in a higher level and more experienced than I have no problem with that. Absolutely not.
But that's not the case a lot of times.
A lot of times it's not. It's just to get them in. It's just to dangle that golden carrot. What they're going to have to do is boost that up. And then hope that no one talks or finds out that, oh, wait a minute. He got what? And you look at your pay stub and you go, I got what? And then you go and ask for a raise and go, oh, I'm sorry, it's just nothing in the budget this year.
Yeah.
Right. As you keep boasting that your numbers are so much higher this year versus last year, there's an issue with that. I mean, we're not stupid. Stop lying to us, please. We're people. Just respect the technicians. It's so simple.
And, Mike Vogel brings up an interesting point. The warranty flat rate system is broken. What they pay for some of the warranty stuff, most people aren't familiar with how the warranty pay structure works, right? You have a guy or a gal that's working on something new in an ideal scenario where the tools are laid out, doing a particular job that's done 100 times over and over in that environment, and they can do it in this much time.
Right.
What they don't do is they put that person on a car that's got 85,000 miles on it, somebody maybe that lives by the shore that's got a rusted bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know about you, but most of us have had an exhaust manifold bolt snap off into the head before.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, a 5-minute job just got a little bit more time added to it.
Yeah.
That's not reflected in some of the OEM reimbursement.
No, and most of the time you do not get paid for that. Some manufacturers, I've worked for a few manufacturers. Some manufacturers allow for a separate time punch for situations like this, a lot of times you're just under. You're completely losing.
So there's no incentive.
No, none.
And the person that gets jobs like that time and time again, now you're just adding to their dissatisfaction in the role when you're already on thin ice.
Correct. Because no matter how many times you do the same job, like we all know that with these, as fast as they're pumping out cars nowadays and as technologically advanced as they are, there are so many recalls and campaigns. So we are pumping out these recalls after one, after the other, after the other, after the, they're all the same. But that doesn't mean that you won't run into a situation on one that is just going to completely eat your lunch and your dinner for that matter.
Yeah.
And you still get paid the same.
Want to get to a couple of comments? Ed Chipolowski, how do we fix the problem? How do we encourage the next generation of EV technicians? Well, I guess it depends on the manufacturer, right? Because I think 20% of the Cadillac dealers took the buyout, decided they weren't going to invest in their electric infrastructure and would rather just take the money and leave. But how do we encourage that?
I think the electric vehicle world is a whole different ballgame. The electric vehicle world is a clear and precise piece of just fitting information to what I said, that our world has always been sales driven. Do you have any idea how much our service hours are going to drop when an all electric fleet?
There's nothing to do. You've got filters, you've got tires, and a lot of dealers don't want to be in the tire business.
Paul, tires don't wear anymore because we use the motors to recharge the batteries, so the brakes don't wear as much. The tires don't wear as much because there's not as much of a on the tire from using a conventional brake system. We will do wiper blades and top of your washer fluid. So overall, the electric vehicle world is just a killer for the fixed ops department all around. I don't get paid to air up tires or put some washer fluid in the car. If there's any technician out there that wants to prove me wrong, please, give me a call. We'll talk about this. But no more oil changes, no more air filters, no more spark plugs, no more oil leaks. Yeah, okay, you're going to have your occasional leak here or leak there. You have to be highly specified and certified to be able to work on these vehicles, which still pays nothing because most of it is going to be warranty. Very few people are going to keep the electric vehicles out of warranty range.
Oh, that's for sure. How much is a battery? Like $8,000 on some cars or more?
Well, you're looking at vehicles that are just normal gas-operated vehicles that are switching to using the what do you call those modern batteries? Not the NiCad, the lithium-ion ones. They're great because you can pick them up with your pinky. However, they cost $3-4 grand.
Wow.
And that is just a regular battery for a regular car. So can you imagine having like 20 of these things lined up in one battery pack? You're talking about such a huge amount of money that even if you have an extended warranty, the prices are going to be outrageous. I don't see a whole lot of good coming out of the whole EV market. It's going to be scary because no one thinks about 10 years down the road when all these mostly plastic cars are laying in a junkyard, leaking all these leaking batteries. There's nothing you can do with them. Nothing can be recycled. But look, that's a whole other story. But EV, for my world, or just the whole fixed operations world, including the whole service department of a dealership, is just bad news. You give me a buyout, I'll take it.
Wow. I mean, that's going to be a wake-up call for just about everybody.
Absolutely.
Because that's some bad stuff coming down the road here. And the ironic thing about this is the craziest thing about electric, okay? So there's a big push for electric. This is not specifically about electric, this show. But where does that car get charged from? The power grid. Mm-hmm. What did we really solve? I guess that's a topic for another conversation. But Ed, thanks, man. That's another show into itself.
Exactly.
Mike Vogel, and no insurance provided if the garage bumped down, burned down, or destroyed by hurricane. A tech could lose $100,000. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Apicella says the success metric for every dealer should be primarily how many recurring customers do we earn after a sale or service transaction. We like to say we're in the relationship business, but we're focused on the one-time transaction. It's self-inflicted wound.
That's what I've been saying. This is all self-inflicted. Listen, sales sells the first car. Fixed ops sells the next 20. Plain and simple. People don't like your service department, they're probably not going to buy another car from you.
And they're not coming back to you. And 7 out of 10 don't come back to you to begin with.
No, and look around you. There are so many dealerships around you. And this is what you were talking about on your previous show about the disruptors. We have created this.
Yeah, we have to take ownership of that.
Absolutely. We have created the niche for people to feel that they're not getting screwed over, that they're safe, that they're valued. Unlike what's happening at the dealerships. You know what the hardest animal to kill is? It's a mouse, because it takes little bites every now and then. What do we do? A customer comes in. We're standing there with our baseball bats, swinging for the fences, hitting with $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in repair bills. No.
We've earned no trust, but we hit them with it.
How many times do you hear people saying like, oh, I'll bring a car to the dealership, and in 10 minutes my phone rings, oh, I need 4 tires, front and rear brakes, a windshield, this, that, and that, my car's leaking oil, and oh, by the way, you need a detail. Okay, that's all fine and dandy, but what's wrong with my car? Oh, we don't know that yet. Huh? First and foremost, do what the car was brought in for. Second, sell safety items. Third, recommend what is going to come close up within the next service, for example. It's not that hard to look at the history of the work order if it's a continuous customer and gauge how many miles between services this guy drives. So you can recommend, like, sir, I'm sorry, but I see that you drive an X amount of miles. Your tires are currently at this level. They're not going to make it till the next service. You want us to remind you in about 4 or 5 months from now, or would you like to take care of this now? What did we just do? We showed interest in the customer. Yes, Paul, trust, because we showed interest in the customer, not just by recommending his safety down the road, but knowing what happened on the road behind him.
Exactly.
Or her.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Sell the green.
It really is.
Sell the green.
Sell the solution.
Ed Chipolowski says cross-training is critical for team building, 100%, because it shouldn't be just, hey, I don't know fixed ops, you take care of it, you know?
Right.
I met with Corey Henderson. He's a general manager of a Subaru store in Connecticut. He comes with a fixed ops background. He's done both. He's been variable and he's done fixed, but he the last, I think, 12 or 14 years he spent in fixed operations. Here's a guy, as he says, I can get my hands dirty 360 degrees because he has a full understanding of every part of the business. We need more of that in the dealership world. It shouldn't be, Marco, you know it, I don't know it, so you take care of it. That's not how you build a team.
No.
Vernon Sword says, set in 20 group meetings where most of the owners made the statement fixed ops was a necessary evil. I've heard that over many years. Yep. When you look at the overall composite, you could see why. Group overall was terrible. I loved it when they started comparing numbers. Everyone accounted differently. Russell B. Hill, Marco, you are spot on. Great information. And Vernon Sword says, great statement. You are correct, Marco. Now you're bringing some fire here tonight, Marco.
Like Mike Vogel said, I'm passionate about this. This has to stop. This has to change. If not, I might as well just, go pick up my tools tomorrow and go work for an HVAC company.
You could do anything.
Absolutely. But it's not about me. It's about the rest of the guys like me. It's about the guys that have pride in their work, their dedication. We do so much stuff without getting paid for, just because we can sleep at night. We know that we did the right thing. Without a pat on the back, without an extra pat on the paycheck, we did the right thing. We're like Rottweilers. We'll bite into a problem and not let go until we figured it out. Because at that point, it becomes personal. It's personal pride. It is knowing that you did great and you learned something new. So when next time something comes around like that, and here's the one thing about guys like me that do things like that, that finally figure something out, we love to boast. So that information automatically spreads.
I so identify with that. I fix just about everything around the house myself. Why? Because a lot of times you have trouble getting people to come out. You want to pay them, but it seems like they don't want to come do the work, right? And there are times where my wife hears me start dropping some F-bombs, and she comes in and she says, "You sure you want to do this?" I said, "The best thing you can do right now is just let me work on it. I will figure it out." And then a little while later, she hears, and I figured it out. And I feel like you. We feel good about it. And we do boast about it because not everybody can do that.
No.
Robert Sage says, in the current market, the opportunities are endless for the fixed ops department to look and be the rock stars of the OEM dealerships. I see it every day when I was in fixed ops. The pandemic exponentially opened up this gap as well. 100%, Robert. Steve Chesson, the owner experience is so good, only 1 in 5 repeat buys. Is this acceptable by any GM? Clearly it is by a lot of them, or it wouldn't be the situation that it is.
Correct.
Mike Vogel says 10K signing bonus versus 5K starter tool set for entry-level technicians to keep based on longevity. How about offering increases based on certifications and longevity bonuses that are given automatically without being asked for? Bam! My interview with a dealer in Aruba, that's what they do. As the technicians get their next level of certification, their pay increases. Mm-hmm. And it's not something anybody has to beg for. They are valued out of the gate. And and the company invests the money in training. They send them overseas for training. They Correct. Send them to Holland. They send them to Puerto Rico. They spend the money, and when the technician comes back with additional qualifications, they pay them more money. What a concept! Proactive.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to say, Paul, that due to some life circumstances, I had to quit my award-winning career with Mercedes Benz, and I had to reschool myself to working for Naples Luxury Imports, which is Jaguar Land Rover. I had to start from the bottom in knowledge, in experience, in just pretty much being the newbie on the team. But I work for such a fantastic company. They know everybody by name. Everybody is valued. We have a tight-knit group. I was sent to training. I leveled up. I got paid more, as it should. It's just a continuous. We have bonuses and incentives in place that are actually obtainable. I know dealerships that offer you $10 an hour more if you hit 100 hours a week. You're killing these techs. You're killing them. And what do you do?
100 hours. How many people do 100 hours?
Oh, you can do it if you work 24 hours a week. 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, no warranty work, and every customer buys what you want to sell them, and all your parts are in stock, and all the tools work, and you have a good internet connection. It's doable, Paul. It's doable. Seriously, it is. But to hold that high of a carrot over your team,
that's crazy.
You're killing them. You're burning them out. Make goals obtainable. Don't be a Scrooge about it, and then someone works himself to death, ends up with 98 hours for the week, and gets nothing but a nice try. You think that person's going to try again next week? Mm-mm. No. That person's probably the next week may hit 30 hours because, they're tired. And again, We technicians are not machines. We have spouses, we have houses, we have kids, we have hobbies, we have a life. Seriously, guys, realize that you need us. I don't need you. If I get fired tomorrow, I have a 4-mile commute to work. Before I get home, I will have 2 job offers guaranteed. How many managers can say that?
Not many, and certainly not with a long term, something that goes beyond 90 days.
Exactly.
Vernon Swords, better get it in writing no matter where you go.
And read the fine print.
Yeah, I'm going to put that one up here because there are things that are said that don't always come to fruition. Robert Stage says the word you're searching for, Paul, is criminal. It is often criminal what the OEM pays for the warranty flat rate time. Wow, I didn't want to quite put it that way, but I would be inclined to agree with that assessment. Robert Stage says, you were. Daryl Terrell, coming up in the shop, it amazes me so many people think you just plug something into a vehicle and it tells you what's wrong. That's the conception that a lot of consumers have. It's textual, you just plug it in. Tells you the trouble codes. Yeah, that's what it is. It's that simple, right Marco?
Yeah, if that's the case, go to your little auto parts store around the corner that plug in an OBD2 scanner, and it's like, oh, here you need this. 2 days later, you're back at the store. What people don't realize is when a code flags, let's just say an oxygen sensor. An oxygen sensor, according to the engine control module, has to read in a certain range. If the range is off, it flags, the control module flags the sensor as, hey, there's your problem. No, that's sensor. Well, wait a minute. Why is that sensor out of range? Are we having an air leak? Are we having a fuel pressure problem? And nowadays, with these direct injected engines, it's a whole different beast. It's not your carburetor anymore, or even your common rail injection. It's completely different. So a lot of times, a code gets flagged for a situation which is outside of normal operating range, which does not mean that that sensor is faulty. Could it be? Absolutely. That's when you look at live data for that sensor. Whether you use a scope, you use your scanning tools, you use a multimeter, whatever you want to do. But you can verify proper operation of said sensor. If that is okay, then you have to look upstream of that sensor. So it's not as simple anymore as like, oh yeah, it says bank 2, sensor 2, O2 sensor is bad.
And then look at it this way too. How many customers get that diagnosis from the auto parts store, then go to a shop and say, hey, I need a new oxygen sensor. And maybe the shop will put that in. And then they find out a week later they still have the same problem.
Right.
Crazy.
But then it's our fault. Ever since. You can ask any technician about that. Ever since is a big deal. Ever since you touched my car, ever since you put a brake light bulb in, my transmission is acting up.
Never had that problem before you put the bulb in.
Exactly. Ever since.
Yeah, I've heard that many years from many different customers. Daryl Terrell also says, what's taking you so long? Appreciate and understand what your techs go through daily, and you will retain them. You just hit that right on the nail. Ed Chipolowski, with technology advancing so fast, the consumer is looking for longer warranty. Well, they're going to get longer warranty because they're going to get cars that don't need anything. Mike Vogel, if you treat every technician as a respected team member here and value their input/opinions, it is possible to have great retention. For 15 years, I never placed an ad for a technician. My existing technicians help me recruit as needed. Always be building a bullpen for the future. Bam, 100%. But how many people do that? Not many.
No.
Robert Stage, labor rates for EVs will be 4 times as much due to maintenance number drop off. Adjusts will have to be made. We all know it. And Vernon Sword says, I love it when the part that applied to a recall such as airbags in the early 2000s. Dealer cost was on these was $200 to $400. became a recall and cost went to $50 to $75 dealer cost. Isn't that amazing how that works?
Well, what I find amazing is when there's a technical bulletin out on the vehicle, not a recall, not a campaign, but a technical bulletin. With a lot of manufacturers, when you say like, okay, I found this code or this situation, this bulletin applied, performed this bulletin, they don't pay you diagnosis time. How am I supposed to know? I still had to do my diagnosis extra because now I had to skim through all your documentations. How did I know that I had to apply that specific bulletin? There was diagnosis involved, but they don't pay it. And all of a sudden, like what was said, labor and parts prices drop. Anyone notices that ever since manufacturers started doing these pre-paint maintenance plans, that a lot of expensive items on the maintenances, such as transmission services, were pushed way up in mileage to where now they were out of that range? It's very interesting how all this got played.
Wow. That's crazy.
It
Mike
is.
Mike Vogel says, Vernon Swords, you are so right. That happens with almost every recall. Wow, that's just crazy stuff, man. You know, that is criminal. Eric from SDL. In case you guys don't know about SDL, every Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and that would be 5 a.m. California time.
Yeah, I'm going to you guys next.
Fix stops. Great fix stops. There's hundreds of years of experience there, and it's people sharing what they know and what they go through on a daily basis. So if you haven't tuned in, reach out to Joe Chambers or Eric and send them a direct message and connect with them on LinkedIn. Steve Apicella, sales and service are always run like two separate companies under one dealer roof. The customer feels that disconnection. When the sale is finished, the transaction and many times the relationship is completed. Fix the gap between sales and service, or we'll keep getting what we currently get. Massive defection, 1,010%. And I think somebody's related to you here. Raina Zwanenburg says, hi, Dad, you're doing great.
Thank you, honey. Appreciate it. That's my daughter. She's awesome.
Oh, I love it when our kids tune in. I wish mine would tune in more often. Mike Vogel says, Debbie Downer here. I have major doubts that dealerships will resolve these issues. It's been several decades of poor customer retention. It's been a couple of decades of technician retention issues. Not sure what more proof DPs and GMs need that what they've been doing isn't working. We've been in this game for about 100 years. 100, I think a little over 100 years in the auto business. We still haven't figured it out. So Mike, I hate to say it, but I don't think you're Debbie Downer. I think you're speaking what a lot of people don't want to admit.
Spot on.
Robert Stage says, Mike Vogel, I agree with you, Mike. There is a snowball effect that is only getting heavier and more dangerous by the day.
Yeah, and the snow is yellow.
And the snow is yellow. Ed Chipolowski, Mike, you know those dealerships will eventually disappear. I hate to agree with you, but I think you're right. Russell B. Hill, those types of dealerships sure will. And Vernon Swords says, anyone on here in the recruiting business, contact me. I have a database with over 90,000 new car email addresses. All can be segmented by job title. Hey, is this a plug?
Sounded like it. Check is in the mail, right?
It's a plug. Mike Vogel, Ed, and Russell, there are many dealerships that have had low retention numbers, 30% for a long time, that are highly profitable. Yeah, but for how long? Well, when I go to fast forward here, it shoots way to the end of the thread here. So just bear with me a second here. Craig Lumia, Basic 101, treat all your employees with respect and dignity and pay the employees what they are worth. Have incentives that are achievable. Reward your teams when the goals are made.
Hey, Paul, Craig Lumia is my service director. Thank you, Craig, for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Craig. Now that's respect right there, man.
Absolutely. We
Raina
go way back.
Zwanenburg says, seriously, people believe technicians and mechanics just have a little shoulder god telling them what's wrong and what to fix immediately. That's not it at all. It isn't easy. The amount of times my dad has come home with scratches and oil and dust on him just for customers to be barely satisfied. Wow.
Thank you.
That's one kid that understands the car business.
You know, when your kids see that, don't you think it's time that other people see that too? We're very understanding. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wow. Burning Swords, as you can see, I am for the parts side. He says, I could write a book on recalls. A lot of TSBs become recalls. And Mike Vogel says, Paul, we need to have a Fixed Ops Brother reunion show with you. Marco, Gene, myself. Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
You know what? I'm going to start working on that tomorrow. And we will reconnect and we'll have that. Michael Weldon, sorry, late painting kid's house. Hi, Marco. Michael Weldon's all the way from the West Coast. And Vernon Sword says,
good seeing you, Mike.
Come and speak about recall, labor, and parts one night. He says, sorry, didn't know. Oh, about the plug. That's quite all right. So I have a question for you. We talked about technicians, and not everybody knows what the next person knows. How do you feel about one bay versus two bays? And before you answer that, I've had situations where I've had my technicians, quality technicians, that work two bays extremely well. Maybe waiting on a part on one or waiting on an authorization. I had the facilities to be able to do that while they're cranking out other work. How do you see that play out on your end?
Just like you said, I can, let's face it, I can really only work on one car at a time. I know there's some that disagree with me, but I can actually only physically work on one car at a time. I can make tremendous hours on just one bay if everything goes okay. Now here's the kicker. There's a lot of recalls and campaigns that are software updates. A software update pays, depending on the manufacturer, anywhere between 0.2 and 0.5 hours. And it can take hours if it goes through in the first time. When the car is doing a software update, you better not even look at the car because it will crash the update, crash the module. Hopefully you can, work your way around it and get it going again. But let's just say for a 0.2 in pay, this car is on my lift for almost an hour. What am I going to do? I can sit there and stare at the computer, watching the ones and zeros go into the car. So at that point, I'm like, if I had another bay, I could be doing these tires and this alignment. So it's a bit of an iffy issue, but I do believe that at least having flow over bays in your shop would be beneficial. That if a situation like this occurs, or you have a car torn apart because you're doing an extensive job on it, and there is an issue with a part didn't get shipped, or a part came in damaged, it happens. Okay, now this part is back order 3 weeks. Great. There's not even suspension on this car. How am I going to get this off of my lift?
You're not.
So at this point, now I have that issue. So a flow over base would be great when it comes to that. Because you're not going to put that whole car back together, push it out, and then take it all back apart again. No one's going to pay you for that. And is your time lost on doing it twice really going to be made up by having your lift open again?
Probably not.
No.
Well, that brings me back to an earlier point you made, okay? Invest in your fixed ops department, invest in your store. I can't tell you how many surveys I've looked at where the dealer's infrastructure, you had appliances that were beyond life date, okay? Beyond life date. Now, let's think about this for a second. If a lot of the updates are going to be software related, there is no need to even bring it. You don't need to sit there and watch the ones and O's, right? There is and has been for many years technology available when you update and upgrade your infrastructure as it comes to Wi-Fi and the right appliances. There is no need to even bring a car in the shop for an update like that. Those cars should be updating outside, in my opinion. They should be updating in the parking space, not in the bay.
As long as you have the opportunity to connect a battery maintainer to the vehicle.
I mean, we have the technology.
Correct.
There's working hard and there's working smart. And I don't think we're working hard for sure, but I don't think as a dealership we're always working smart. And I say that generically, because a lot of stores don't have that kind of infrastructure where they're even able to do that.
Correct. But what does internet cost nowadays? A decent speed, dedicated lines. That should be one of your primary and most easiest and cheapest things to do for your shop.
Yeah.
If you have, depending on the size of your dealership, you have 10, 20, 30 cars downloading software at the same time while you're on your computer looking for TSBs. And let's not forget everybody and their uncles streaming their music services off that same internet.
Yeah.
What are you going to do here?
It's crazy because we can fix it. It's not rocket science. It's probably one of the easiest things in the world to fix.
Paul, this all comes down to going back to the basics, enforcing the basics, policing the basics, but also being able to be flexible on the basics for today's world's approach on it.
Yeah.
It's like a bad game of chess that we're playing.
Yeah, we're playing it with a checkerboard.
In the dark.
Let's see. Corey Henderson. We were just talking about Corey Henderson. Great job tonight, gentlemen. Nice to meet you virtually, Marco. You articulate our technicians' challenges well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate you tuning in, man. Vernon Sword says lots of back-ordered parts right now. Shipping is also a huge parts problem right now. And Raina Zwanenburg says it doesn't even have to be in the automotive industry. Having a good connection between managers/advisors and employees is the golden rule to management. Think of it as a tower of birds. The CEO is at the top, then advisors, managers, employees. When the CEO looks down, all they see is bad work. When the employees look up, all they see is disrespect. Marco, how old is your daughter?
She is 15, actually.
You should be extremely proud, man.
She's a smart cookie. She started working last year for a grocery store, and she's finding out how it really is, and I'm proud of her. I mostly stay out of a lot of things unless it becomes really dire. My motto is figure it out. If you need my help, I'm here, but I'm not doing it for you. Figure it out. Some may call that a little harsh, a little, detached maybe, but I can tell you things 100 times until you experience it. Then you're going to learn. Then it's going to stick. But no, she's great.
Wow. I would be extremely proud, as I'm sure you are.
Absolutely.
Ed Chipolowski, what are your thoughts on VR being developed by OEMs prior to vehicles being delivered? Do you have any thoughts on that? The virtual reality stuff.
Sure. We want to make our jobs a video game now. I mean, what are we going to have robotic arms in our lives so I can just operate them from my bed? I mean, how much more detached can we get? You know what the biggest issue was that people had during this whole pandemic? It was personal interaction. We want people to schedule online, pay online. We use all sorts of services to communicate online. People just want to talk. We're missing that interhuman connection, the thing that builds trust. That's what we're missing here. The most successful advisors are the ones that take the time to call, to interact with these people, no matter how busy they are, to interact with these people. Same with managers, the ones that take the time to walk around, looking at you, Craig, the ones that look around, ask questions, shoot the breeze with people, have some fun, but also be strict and on the point and direct to where things need to be headed. We are missing
fine line they walk.
Exactly. So VR, no. All this online stuff, it's great, it's easy, but what are we missing? We're missing the number one trust building factor, which is true and honest personal human interaction.
When I ran my shops many years ago, the one-on-one interaction with the customer, I knew every customer, just about every customer by name, and I knew many of their family members.
Exactly.
And they knew all of my technicians by name, and they knew a little bit about each of the technicians. This is the customers that knew about the technicians. The customers would stand in the bay out back watching their car being worked on and shooting the breeze with the technicians. They came to us for everything exactly because of the type of interaction you're talking about, and that's lost today.
Absolutely. We are so detached with all this digital stuff that it's great on one hand. It puts people in communication that normally you couldn't with, like my parents that live in Europe. Yeah. I can now call and text and video chat with them, and like we are doing here, people. Hello. We're doing a live broadcast on a digital platform. Yeah. Everything has its time. Everything has its place. You want to build trust with your customers? And by the way, there is no fixed ops customer. There is no variable ops customer. There's one customer.
The dealer's customer.
The dealership's customer. That is it. But you want to build trust and rapport with them. You want them to come back to you. How do you feel if you walk into a grocery store that you go to 2, maybe 3 times a week because you forgot something to go like, oh, hey, Marco, how are you? Wow. You feel good. You feel respected. You feel acknowledged.
Valued.
Exactly. Here we go again, Paul. That word, value. You want trust? You have to show value in whatever way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to be monetary. You have to value these people. You have to value their time. You have to value their possessions, being in their car.
Yeah.
Simple. Back to basics, people. Let's do this. It's not that hard.
Back in the day, I fondly remember the audio cassette collection, Jackie B. Cooper. And he said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yep. Absolutely.
Robert Stage, 3 at a time, 1 in the air, time running, used car, 1 under it after its estimate is sent, and 1 behind the lift being inspected with what is looked at on the ground. Workflow is where it's at. To your point, you can only do one thing at a time. It's like multitasking. No, I had a lot of trouble with that one. I always said, oh yeah, I can multitask with the best of them. No, my wife helped me to understand it's not multitasking, it's multi-sequencing, because when one sequence stops is when the next sequence begins. You can't do them both at the same time. That's just the way it is.
Correct.
And Raina Zwanenburg says, speaking of time face-to-face, didn't one of your advisors take time out to invite everyone to a birthday dinner in a few weeks? Dedication, people. Oh my God. How far are you from Ed Roberts' store?
Oh, Ed Roberts is in
Beaux-Arts.
Where's that? Quite a ways.
East Coast.
Yeah, quite a way still.
Quite a way.
I mean, I'm like all the way in the southwest of pretty much the next stop after Marco Island is the Everglades.
Oh wow, okay.
The key, yeah. I'm way southwest.
Okay. You're in the boonies.
Yeah, I'm on the Paradise Coast, buddy.
Mike, oh, some beautiful pictures you post of some of the sunsets there.
Exactly.
Mike Vogel, 100% Marco. You can't build trust without human interaction. Great comment. Triple hand clapping emojis. Rob Sage says, great show tonight, gentlemen. And Mike Vogel, TVC, trust, value, convenience. And you know what? It brings us to another end of the show. We didn't even get to everything we wanted to get to.
You know where to find me, Paul.
Marco, thank you so much, brother.
It's been my pleasure, Paul. Thank you for having me on. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been great. And let's do this. Seriously, let's do this.
I'm going to circle back to the Fix Ops brothers about a reunion. And for those watching the show, whether it's live or on the replay, if you see something that resonates with you or that could add value, please share the episode. Because if you only help one person, then we've done a lot. So with that, thank you very much. I wish everybody a safe and successful week next week. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Marco, don't go away.